Hello everyone, we are live. Welcome to number 36 of these Music Talk Lives. I hope you can hear me, as always. And so welcome again to a new live stream on the modes. We are kind of running out of them, right? Because I think we've done Dorian, Lydian, and Mixolydian, and today is Phrygian. So it's not like we have that much left, but maybe I'll do one on major and minor as well. And then we'll move on to stranger modes of the harmonic minor and melodic minor. Maybe we'll take a break for a little while, a couple of weeks or 3 or 4, and then get back to them. So, hello everyone. I see there's already quite a few of you. Jenny, what's up? Yes, I'm back live. Hello Reiki, hello there is Art. I'm good, thank you. I hope you're good too. And so yes, last week was a pre-recorded one, but as I mentioned, there's going to be a few changes coming up. Not right now, but there will be later on. Hello Jim, good to see you. Good evening. So you must be somewhere around here, right, Jim? Maybe somewhere east. And so what was I saying? Oh yes, that there might be some changes coming up, not too soon, but I will have to kind of prepare for them. And so once in a while I might have to do a pre-recorded premiere of the videos, but that's fine because I always try to be there in the chat room with you, and sometimes it's kind of cool. I just sit there in front of a computer and talk to myself for 40 minutes. Oh, that's right, Jim, you're in the UK. I did know that. Yes, how's the weather up there? I hope it's not too bad. It's not too bad here in Barcelona, actually. It's kind of warm today. Just in the studio it gets cold. But so what have you guys been up to this week? I've been kind of tinkering about with some things. You remember about these? Wait, I'm gonna break them. My cassette decks. So I got 2 of these now, because this wonderful person who gave these to me, she's very generous, and she said, well, there's 2 of them lying around, so I'm going to give you both of them. And because she doesn't know what to do with this, right? YouTube community administrator, right. We do believe you. Keep the noise down. All right. Well, what was I saying? There's 2 of these, right? So what I did was I had to make a cable. You see, old gear, this might be a bit of a nerdy thing, but maybe some of you would like it. If you buy a tube deck, I mean a cassette deck, even like the Studer one, with the reel-to-reel, you'll sometimes find this connection. This is a regular MIDI connection, because back then, especially in German, this was a German connection, and it was used for audio. But then when the MIDI protocol came out, they all settled on this specific jack, right? So it's a 5-DIN, which means that you have 5 pins here, and you can have in and out stereo. So I kind of concocted this little thing. You see, it's not very professional, but this lets me get in and out of my cassette decks from whatever, drum machines, synths, guitars. And I might do something for you guys with it, so that's why I'm sharing it. Although I'm still waiting for my Studer, the reel-to-reel, that's going to be better quality, but I still want to do something for you guys. Maybe a little sample pack or something of some old drum machines that I have. I don't know, it's going to take a while, but I will do it, all right? And the other thing I've been working on is a secret little book that will be free for all of you. And because I know some people can't quite afford the books. I know they're kind of cheap, they're only 10 euros. By the way, if you don't know about it, I have 2 books on technique, legato and alternate picking. And here they are. This is the alternate picking book. All right, very quickly, and this is the legato book, and you find the links down there in the description. But I do know that all of you guys, thank you very much who bought it, and you're enjoying it, I gather, by your comments. And but still, I know some people, 10 euros is a bit of or 20 if you buy both of them. If it's a bit too much, or I can't sell them for any cheaper, then I will be paying to work. But I will have a little something for you ready in the next few weeks, and it's a little something that has to do with books, and And the thing is, it's taking me a bit longer than I thought, because when you try to do things right, it always takes a bit longer than you thought it would. But I hope you'll enjoy it. Barcelona, you didn't know that I was here? I love the album Barcelona. Oh, okay, yeah, super great album, and many others. I do know Otmar Liebert, but I think he lives in Santa Fe, right? Yeah, when you get into the real deep flamenco thing, the Liebert thing sounds a little bit I don't want to be not nice, because I think he's a great musician, but I just veered off into the more traditional flamenco music. But Yes, I think, yes, he had an album that had a song called Barcelona Nights. Very melodic. I do enjoy that and I do appreciate it. But anyway, we're gonna get started on the stream on the modes. Today I'll go just a little bit faster, not too fast, but because every time I'm kind of repeating a little bit of the same things that apply to all modes. So I would suggest that if you haven't watched the previous ones, you can maybe go to the Lydian, Mixolydian, or Dorian, and I go into more detail about everything so that I don't repeat, you know, all of it. But I will still cover the basics, okay? So today is about the Phrygian mode. We're gonna get started, and if somebody's getting a bit late, you can watch it later, catch up, you know, it's no problem. And the Phrygian mode is the third mode of the major scale. I think you all know that. So basically, when you have a major scale, you can start from the root, and that gives you a major scale, right? So if I'm in C major, I can have C major. That's pretty easy. I go from C to C, and I'm in C major. But I could also consider each of these notes of the major scale. I could consider those as a root of their respective scales, and those are the modes. That's the basic idea behind the modes. And we looked at Dorian, which is the second, and then we looked at the fourth and fifth modes, which are Lydian and Mixolydian, and today we're going to look at the third, which is Phrygian. The first one, of course, is major or Ionian, and the sixth is minor or Aeolian. So there's not a lot left, as I was saying. So today's is the third mode of the major scale. In the case of C major, that means we would start from the third note, E, and we consider that the root of the mode. So we abandon C and we look at it as an E scale, all right? You have to get rid of the C, otherwise you will fall back into sounding like a C major scale. That's one thing about the modes that we should discuss really quickly. Your ear is really tuned to the very basic scales, right? Because you've been hearing them since you were a kid or before then, right? And so major takes precedence over pretty much anything. So that's why people, when they don't quite know how to use the modes and they don't understand them, when they improvise or they play, they tend to kind of have their music fall back down on the major scale, even if they're trying to play a mode, because your ear will try to go back to C. So if I don't establish very strongly a root, this E Phrygian here, see, my ear wants to stop here already. It doesn't even give me 5 seconds. It's like, no, I don't want E Phrygian. I want C major. Give me C major. And so you have to be careful and mindful, and you have to understand the mode so that you can, you know, force your ear to consider the root. Right? You want the ear to be forced into hearing the root of the mode you want to play. So for Lydian, you have to focus on certain notes, for Mixolydian on other notes, and in this case of Phrygian on yet another note, the third one. All right, so the Phrygian scale is the third mode of the major scale. All right, so this is it for this little section, but we're going to move on to relative. And this is where maybe I will go just a little bit faster than usual, because we go over this pretty much every week. And so if you're totally new to this, you can certainly ask me questions right now, and I'll go back to it and I'll cover it again, or just go back to the older videos on the modes. I link here or there as soon as YouTube lets me after the stream, and you'll get a link. All right, but the idea is I'm in C major, and E is the third mode, right, the Phrygian. And so basically what you see here is a C major scale from C to C, but I'm going from E to E using the notes of the C major scale. That's the idea. So basically E Phrygian is a C major scale from E to E. That's all there is to it. Advantages of this that we might have not talked about before. Well, the first one is that, well, one we did talk about before, which is that if one day you're trying to improvise in E Phrygian and you get lost and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, you can always go, okay, wait a second, E Phrygian is C major. Let me just find C major on the neck. And at least you're playing, right? If somebody's jamming over and you're supposed to play E Phrygian, you'll know that you're playing the right notes because you're playing the mother scale, the major scale. And then slowly you work your way back to the root. So you go, okay, I'm in C major, no idea what I'm doing, but I know it's the right notes. And now slowly I start to focus on the E. You see, and then if you remember more about the mode, on the notes that make up the mode. If you do that slowly, you will gain control again of your playing. So that's one thing that's good about relative scales. You always have something to fall back on if you get lost. I get lost in whatever. If you get lost in E Lydian, you go, okay, wait a second. E Lydian, I don't know what I'm doing, but I remember E Lydian is A major. I'm sorry, E Lydian is B major. So let me just go to B major, start playing, and then at least I'll be playing the right notes. Might not be the most inspired thing ever, but I'll be playing the right notes. And then let me slowly, as I move my fingers, let me find my place. Now it starts sounding like Lydian because I've gained control again of the mode, but at least I'm playing the right notes. Okay, so that's one thing. The other relative scale advantage is that the chords of your parent major scale are valid for your mode. So if you want to improvise in E Phrygian and you're like, well, I know that it's a C major scale, but what chords can I play? Well, certainly you can play all the same chords as C major, right? So you don't have to learn all the formulas for all the chords in all the modes, in all the keys, right? Because you'll know, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that if I play C major from the third note to the third note, that's E Phrygian. And if I want to play over chords, I know that I can use the same chords as C major, and the first chord will be E minor, and then F major, G major. And you know, slowly but surely you'll get this very Phrygian sounding chord progression by simply playing the chords of C major, right? So those are two advantages, and other than that, I wouldn't spend too much time on relative scales, because the most important thing, as I always say, is parallel scales. Parallel scales mean you are actually Hello, Paolo. Oh, let me just do a little parenthesis here. Paolo is a great guitar player. He's from Spain, and he's a good friend of mine. And he's a great guitar player, had a band called Immune. And besides that, he just released a solo single. So I'm sorry for hijacking this a little bit, but Paolo has a great new song out, and I was going to do something last week, but then I recorded it. I wanted to share it with you guys. I think you'll love it. It's called When. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Paolo, but it's called When. Has a great video on it, and great sounds, great guitar player. So do check him out. I think he's kind of new on YouTube, so give him a warm welcome. Maybe, you know, go check out his channel. Great guy, great guitar player, great everything. So do help him out, because I think he's just starting out on YouTube. So I think I got everything right, name of the song and everything. Paolo, welcome. And congratulations again on your song. You know, I think it's his first outing as a solo artist, so please do support him. It's worth it. All right, cool. Let's go back to the parallel scales. Hang out here with us, Paolo, if you want, and then you can ask him questions, because he knows a lot, right? So, going back to the parallel scales, this is what you want. You want to start from a root and find the mode of that root, from that root, knowing the formula. So here's the formula for the Phrygian mode. It's very simple. Those of you who know a bit of theory will recognize that root, minor third, fourth and fifth, flat 6 and flat 7, those are the notes of a minor scale. So you'll recognize that the Phrygian scale is certainly a close relative of the minor scale, but then you have this note here, and this is the note of the mode. This is the flat 2, right? So in the case of C, as you can see down here, you have, it's the same as a minor scale. Let me play the minor scale for you. Okay, this is the regular minor scale, but now we're going to switch that D here for a D flat. We're going to move it down a half step. And you get that very specific Phrygian sound. It's a flat 9 or flat second. Right? And it's a sound of Phrygian. And so when you build a mode, what you want to do is that. You want to start from the root and go, okay, I understand what the formula is, I understand what the notes are. Most importantly, I understand the sound of the mode, and I understand why this mode is something I want to know. So for example, if you are looking for a specific sound that the minor scale doesn't provide, maybe something else will provide it for you. So the more modes and scales you learn, the more access you will have to this sound. For example, when I play this scale, sometimes I'm missing this major 7. Luckily, there's a scale for that. It's called the harmonic minor, which we'll get into in future weeks. Sometimes I want a brighter sound. And then we have the Dorian, which we looked at a few weeks ago, right? Or I can even modify the same Phrygian scale. So it's important to understand parallel scales because they don't depend on other scales. You don't need C major to play E Phrygian. You don't need, whatever. You don't need other scales. You need just a root of the key you want to play in, and then you're free to build whatever mode you want. Okay, so that's why you should always study parallel scales. So what do you need to know to do parallel scales? Just the formula. This here, root, flat 2, flat 3rd. This is all you need. Now, you need that and knowing the intervals. So you have to know what a minor 6 of G is. You have to know what a minor 3rd from B is. Or you want to know what, whatever, a perfect 4th of C. It doesn't matter. You do need your intervals. And that's a bit beyond what we can do on a video. But if you're one of my students, some of you are, you know that I don't let that slide. You need to know your intervals. And I test my students. I test them weekly almost on the intervals, and so it's something very important. All right, but anyway, move on to the Sound of Phrygian. We did talk about it a little bit. It's a minor scale with a flat 2, has a very specific sound. Okay, based on a minor scale, we lower the second. The second has a very strong pull toward the root. So we're going to add, by doing Phrygian, we add a certain urgency to the scale. You can hear it. You hear this note, it does want to go back to the root. When I'm playing regular minor with a regular second, it wants to go up, right? Which is another resolution, not as strong, but it prefers that. You hear that, but the Phrygian, it's really asking to go back to the root. And you can exploit this when you're improvising. You can build phrases that want you to go back, and maybe you don't, right? Right, something like that. Your ear is hearing already the resolution to E, but if I wait a long time for it, you might get tired of me, right? So once in a while, I will have to. See? And you always have to manage expectation and your actual resolution. So you don't always give it when people want it, but you don't withdraw it so long so as to piss people off, basically. Right? Anybody in there? If you're in there, please do write something in the chat room so I know I'm not talking to myself, and ask questions because I'll get to them soon. Also, let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, or just right. Okay? So the Sound of Phrygian. I'm going to improvise a little bit as always on a minor chord. Okay, let's do E to begin with, so you can hear it E minor, right? So you can hear it on as C major. Basically, I'm going to play C major over it, and then you'll be able to, I think, if you want to follow along, it's a bit easier. But then we have to do it in C Phrygian because we want to be able to play all scales in all keys, right? But to begin with, let's make it a bit simple. Okay, let me see. There you go. And let me mute the microphone. I'm going to play E Phrygian, okay, over an E minor chord. whatever, right? Sometimes you just have to explore. But anyway, that's the idea. You could hear certainly that F pulling towards the E, and that's the sound of Phrygian. This is over an E chord. Now, if I were to play it over C again, then I would have to arrange the notes for this scale to coincide with the formula. So I would have a bunch of flats. I would play C. I would have C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat. Now it's a bit more difficult to manage if you're not used to playing with a lot of flats and sharps. That's why you should practice it in all keys, all right? Because some of these modes, they get pretty hard pretty quick. So a simple major scale will give you some strange modes, right, if you're not too careful. Ending with the power chord sounds nice. Oh yes, power chords. We're going to talk about the chord in just a second. And so this is it, Sound of Phrygian. If you have any more questions about it, please. Oh, there's Jenny with a question. Can you throw the progression back up on the screen? Of course I can. Well, rather than the progression, wait, what progression? This one, the formula? As far as the progression for the chords, we'll have that in just a second. I'll give you the chords for it. Okay, but basically the idea here, you have a root, a flat second, a flat third, fourth, fifth, flat sixth, and flat seven. Okay, that's the formula. But I will give you the chords, Jenny. Okay, so this is the formula for the notes. And then let's talk about the positions and patterns. Okay, as we said last time, if you use the major scale as your reference, well, you will get the right patterns for the Phrygian. So again, if I'm in C major, I will actually be playing E Phrygian without changing a single note. I will just play my C major scales, and that's E Phrygian. But that's relative. So if you do parallel, that's what I would suggest. You should know, if you're doing, for example, the cage system, you should know 5 positions of Phrygian. In this case, maybe C Phrygian. And if you play the 3 notes per string, then you will have to know 7 positions of C Phrygian. And then if you do the 12 positions that I like to play, you'll know 12 positions of C Phrygian. You know what I mean? You approach it the same as you would approach a regular major scale. You have to know it from nothing. And from scratch, you go, okay, I need B flat Phrygian, let me play B flat Phrygian. Okay, I need E Phrygian, I play E Phrygian. I'm not going to the relative major, right? If I can avoid it. If, for example, I'm playing C Phrygian, which is kind of, it has 4 flats. It's a pretty complex root. But I could do, okay, let me start on the 4th position of the cage system, which starts with the root, and I might go like this. So I would play A9, right? A9, 11, A10, 11, A10, 11, A10, and then 2 8-9 11s. Now this is the one of the cage positions for the Phrygian mode, but I'm actually learning it as Phrygian. I'm not thinking, oh wow, look, it looks like an A flat major scale. That's what I'm going to do. No, you learn it as a C Phrygian scale. Okay, so eventually, we talked about this a little while ago, but eventually you will have a 4th position of the cage system for major, for minor, you have one for Dorian, there you go, you have one for Phrygian, you have one for Lydian. You see what I mean? You always have all of them starting from the same root. That's what I mean by learning the scales of the modes, not just saying, oh, C Phrygian is A flat major, great, I already know it, because A flat major revolves around A flat. All the notes that make C Phrygian Phrygian only make C Phrygian Phrygian if you think of them as referring back to C. So if I have the C, I have a D flat, that's my Phrygian note. I have my flat 7, right? I have my minor 6. This is what makes C Phrygian Phrygian. If I look at it as A flat major, this is my root, right? The 3rd is major. I'm playing the same notes, but they don't sound anything like one another. All right? So that's what I mean. You need to focus your new positions. Even though the fingering is the same, you will need to focus them on the new root, which in this case will be C. All right, so if I were to play now, how do I really memorize it? Well, you use them. You use them as soon as possible. So if I just learned or relearned that this scale here is the C Phrygian scale in 4th position of the cage system, the first thing I would do, and now I have to mute the microphone probably, but I would play a C minor chord, right? Because Phrygian is a minor. Phrygian is a minor. I don't hear anything I'm playing now because I have the mic on, but I will try to play something, and I'll be careful, right, not to screw up. But if I'm playing this position, what I'm doing now, I hope you can hear the microphone, I'm using this position that maybe I just learned, but I'm making music with it. I'm focusing on the C. I'm focusing on the Phrygian note, the D flat, on the minor 6th and 7th, which make it even more minor. Of course, the minor 3rd. You follow? I hope you do. And now, of course, if I know my 4th position in C Phrygian, I may say, well, how about the 2nd position or the 1st position? It doesn't matter which one, right? If I were to do the 2nd, which is a bit further off, I would just have to learn, starting from the lowest note, of course. I will have to play, no, Phrygian, this one. So this is again a cage position. It's called number 2 because these are my roots. And this is not a video on the cage system, but if you know something about it, this will make sense. It's not an A flat major scale. It's a new position for the C Phrygian. You know what I mean? If I were to play 3 notes per string, I would go, okay, what's the first position? The one from the root. I need to be able to play from C Phrygian, and as soon as possible, make music with it with the 3 notes per string. If I were to play it all over the fretboard, same thing. I still have to do it on starting from the root as a parallel scale. All right, it's very important, and that's how you should learn it. Finally, I would do it on 1 string. Incredibly important. And again, if it's too hard, every mode you can do in the key that has the least amount of alterations, sharps or flats. So if I'm doing Phrygian and I'm new to this, I might do it in E because I know E Phrygian has no sharps and no flats. As I progress, I will do with a bunch of sharps and flats. I don't care. I don't care because if I know that sharps and flats are just notes, then I don't care. I don't care if it's C Phrygian has 5 or 4, or in the case of C Phrygian is 4. But you know, any scale you have, if it's F Phrygian, then it has 5 flats. I just use 5 flats. It doesn't matter. I played on the whole fretboard on just 1 string. And that's how I would progress through this, all right? I would do the cage system, then I would do 3 notes per string, then I would do 1 string, and then I would do all kinds of stuff. Octaves, 4 notes per string. You can do it in every key, it doesn't matter, right? You can still play the right notes. This was E Phrygian on 4 notes per string. You can do all kinds of stuff, and you should, all right? So, moving on to the chords. I said I was going to be quicker today, but I'm talking too much, as always. So the chords of Phrygian, if you harmonize a Phrygian scale, you're going to get, of course, the same chord of the major parent scale that we talked about. But because we want to look at this series of chords of, we want to see the chords as the chords of the actual mode, this is the list. So the first chord of a Phrygian scale is minor, right? In the case of E Phrygian, we would have E minor here, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major, and D minor. Of course, they are the same chords as C major. That's unavoidable and that's fine. But I don't want to look at it that way. I want to look at it as the one is E minor and what happens next, right? And then I have I can have these Phrygian progressions, not C major progressions that kind of sound Phrygian if I stick it to the E, right? So these are the chords. And wait, let's see, there's a question. Jim, how do you relate modes to the circle of fifths? Okay, let me get back to you in just a second. That's a deep question. And I'll get right back to you, Jim. So the chords over which you can play the Phrygian. Now, as you see here, it says the flat 9 problem, because many other modes, the notes that are altered are notes that you can kind of avoid in a lot of chords. But in the 9, you certainly can avoid it. But you know, when you try to expand a chord harmonically, the 9th is often used. You have a lot of dominant chords with the 9th, like the C9, the C11. You have the add 9 chords. Oh, I have distortion, so. Right? I have the sus2 chords. I have the, you know, a lot of them I use a 9. And the ones that use a flat 9, there are many chords that use a flat 9, but they are dominant chords, because a lot of chords in the dominant section, they use a flat 9, but then they're dominant, which means they're major, and you can't use them because Phrygian is a minor mode. So here's a list of chords you should try just in the beginning. You should try C minor, of course, which is what I was doing earlier. I was playing Phrygian over a minor chord of the same root. You could do it on the 5th chord, so a power chord, like Daddy's Art was saying, right? And you can use the sus4 chord. By the way, if you don't know about it, I have a whole list of chords. I make a video every week on chords, so you should check it out. And I feel bad saying it about my own videos, but they're really good for learning chords. So every Tuesday at 5 p.m. in Europe, I release a video on chords, and it's going to be a long series, all right? But go check it out if you haven't done so, and I do talk about the scales of the chords and all that, all right? But the sus4 chord is a major chord without the 3rd. I'm sorry, it's a chord without the 3rd. It has a 4th. And you see, it doesn't give you any information on the 2nd. So you can play the Phrygian. It sounds really cool on the sus4 chord. So in the case of C, it would be C, F, and G, okay? But you can check them out anywhere. You have the minor 7th chord. Why? Because the minor 7th chord doesn't use a 9th. It's just root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. So over this chord, you can certainly use it. And he has this sound. Sorry. Okay. And after the 7th, that's when the problems start, because you tend to add the 9th, then the 11th, and the 13th. And technically speaking, 11 and 13 chords also include the 9th, so you can omit it, but technically it's supposed to be there. And so it kind of takes away a lot of options for the Phrygian chords. There's one more that sometimes is called the Phrygian triad, which I think is not the right name for it, but you could play the root, the 5th, and instead of the 2nd, the sus2 chord, you play this. Right? It's not a bad sound, but it is what it is. It's basically it's a sus2 chord, but the 2 is 1/2 step down. So there's no name for it really. Sometimes it's called the Phrygian triad or the Phrygian chord, but it's basically a root, a 5th, and a flat 9. So C, G, and D flat. And that's it. But usually the Phrygian, you can stick it upon a regular minor chord or 5th chord, and it sounds pretty good. But be careful though, if you're using, for example, you mix it up with the minor scale, right? Play a little bit of minor, and then switch to Phrygian like I just did. Be careful, because if the chord underneath has a 9th, it will certainly agree with the minor chord, with the minor scale, but it will not work with the Phrygian, all right? So if I'm playing, this is a minor, which does work with Phrygian, but this is a sus2 chord. And the sus2 chord has a 2nd, and the Phrygian has a flat 2nd. So unless I'm really careful, and every time I hit this chord, I avoid the Phrygian, which is ridiculous, then I will run into problems, all right? So make sure if you're using the Phrygian as, you know, in between, with, you know, together with another scale, make sure the progression underneath or the chord underneath agrees with it. And the other thing is this, we're talking about single chords, right? So C minor, but usually you don't play over a single chord, you play over a progression. So always be careful before you switch to Phrygian that your chord progression comes from this series up here. Otherwise, you might get away with 1 or 2 chords, but eventually, you know, chords complete themselves. Between 2 or 3 chords, you get the whole key. And so don't screw up there, because a flat second, when it doesn't fit, it really sounds like crap, all right? That's from experience, from doing it live in front of a lot of people. Don't do it. C sus4 sounds great, yes, and that is very cool. The last one. Oh yes, the kind of Phrygian one. Okay, so I'm done here. I hope I didn't go too fast. It's been about 40 minutes. I know I do talk a lot, and I hope you made some progress on this. And you know, making one every week on the mode, sometimes I'm afraid of repeating myself too much and boring you, but at the same time I want to be careful so as not to go too quickly. But you know, these videos, they are what they are. I understand the limitations of this. I don't think they replace true tutoring and teaching. But you know, you put them in the background, you listen to them, you play along to them. And I think, you know, overall, the sum of all of them, maybe they're not perfect, you know, maybe they're not in line with your current level, whatever. But in time, I think the sum of all this will work. And I certainly would like to hear your opinions on this, you know, in the comments or in the chat, you know, if these are still useful for you and so on. Because it's, you know, that's why I'm here basically. It's not, well, it is for fun too, but you know, I have, I can think of other stuff to do on a Saturday. But this is cool because I think it does contribute to you know, kind of raising a little bit the level of regular people playing guitar. They're not professional maybe, but they want to get into the professional stuff. And so anyway, that's the idea. So do let me know if you still get some use out of these things. Otherwise, we'll switch to something else. And Jim, I'm going to talk to you about the circle of fifths really quick. The circle of fifths is basically the circle. Let me grab some tea really quick. All right, so the circle of fifths basically, didn't we make a video on it? I think we did. So go back and watch that video. I will link it again if I can remember. But the circle of fifths is basically the map to all scales, right? Usually people stop at the major circle of fifths. So they have the studied circle of fifths and they go, okay, now I know that C major has no sharps. I know that A major has 3 sharps. And I know that B flat major has 2 flats, and I know that whatever, D flat major has 5, and I know what they are, right? So if I'm in whatever, if I'm in F major, I know that it's F, A, G, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, and then I can think about it and I can play the right scale. Worrying about the B flat, I can relate it to chords, and so on. So that's what really the circle of fifths is. And then there's many ways you can navigate it. And I think this is a bit beyond what I can do in a video, right? Teaching this to people usually takes a few sessions, one-on-one, you know, 1-hour lessons. But the basic idea, if you want to kind of, you know, get a feel for it, is that you can have as many circle of fifths as you want. If you just focus on the diatonic modes, which means modes derived from a major scale, you can have 7 circle of fifths. You can have a circle of fifths from major, which tells you that what's up here at 12 o'clock, so no sharps and no flats, is C, right? And what's here at 3 sharps is A major. And what's here at 3 flats is E flat major, right? You can have that. But then you can have another circle of fifths that maybe deals with minor scales. So now I know that at 12 o'clock for the minor scales, it's A minor, right? And if I'm looking for, I don't know, B minor, I know that I'll find it here at 2 o'clock for you there, right? And that's the idea behind that. But now if you want to take it further, then you have 5 more circle of fifths, basically 1 per mode. So if there's a well, let's do this one. If there's a Phrygian circle of fifths, what's at 12 o'clock? What Phrygian mode is at 12 o'clock? What Phrygian mode or Phrygian scale doesn't have any sharps or flats. E Phrygian has no sharps and no flats. Okay, how do I remember that? Well, you kind of have to study, right? Or what's at 8 o'clock? What has 4 flats? If I'm in Phrygian, well, that's C. C Phrygian is down here, right? And whatever. And B is up here at 1 o'clock, and F sharp is. You see what I mean? So you have all these different circle of fifths in your mind, hopefully, not on a piece of paper, but where you know every note on every one of them. And then what you can do is you know exactly what to play, how to play it. You can relate them from one to the other, right? Instead of remembering, oh wait, if I count 3 down, I find the major scale. I don't want to do that. That's relative. But if I understand that I have a bunch of scales here, right? I have a lot of scales at 2 o'clock, and they can be D major, right? Or they can be whatever. Okay, they can be B minor, or they can be F sharp Phrygian, or they can be, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Or they can be E Dorian. They're all here. They all have 2 sharps. And if I know that, I can switch from one to the other. I can have my song move from one mode to another mode that uses the same notes. So it's not a modulation. I'm just moving it. Well, it is a modulation kind of, but I'm not changing any notes. I'm just kind of steering the boat that way and then that way, but I'm still on the same plane. Or maybe I do want to go to another key. So I'm like, okay, let me make this just a little bit brighter, right? So if I'm in a scale with just 2 sharps, maybe for this section, I'll just go up 1, okay? And that's the first benefit. I know, long answer. I have this problem all the time. If I do interviews for Guitar Magazine or webs, I go on so long that they go, okay, enough, we'll cut it. And so the other thing is, that now I understand the circle of fifths of the basic modes, right? And from that circle of fifths, I can now use it to diverge into other scales that maybe don't fit the circle of fifths, like all the modes of the harmonic minor and all the modes of the melodic minor, for example. These modes are different. They're very different, but I can relate to them because, okay, there's only 1 or 2 notes changing, right? Because, for example, if I play Lydian, if I have Lydian here in my mind in all keys, starting from all roots, right? And I know all the chords, I know all the extensions for any Lydian scale anywhere. And then you say, well, what I want you to play is the Lydian dominant scale. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. I know it's a mode of the melodic minor, which is a very strange scale. It's very different. But I know that if I only change 1 note of the Lydian that I know, I will get there. And so I don't have to start from nothing. And then slowly, of course, I can maybe build 12 more circle of fifths or 7 more circle of fifths of melodic minor. But in the meantime, I have access to all the modes of the melodic minor. And the same with the harmonic minor. If I know all my minor scales and you tell me that I have to just raise the 7th note to make it harmonic minor, I'll just go ahead and raise the 7th note. I know my notes on the fretboard. I know what the 7th of G is. That's why we're going back to the usual. I always say you need 3 things to really understand music and the guitar. The circle of fifths, in and out, intervals, all intervals in every key from every note. You have to know the major second of this and the flat and the minor 6 of that and the perfect fifth of this, in your sleep. If you know that and you know the circle of fifth and you know the notes on the fretboard, there's pretty much nothing that you will not be able to understand on the guitar. It's a tall order, it's a lot of study, but it is what it is. If you know these 3 things, there's always something you can fall back on when it gets too hard. Okay, too much. I do apologize. I get passionate about these things, and yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Jim. I think you got more than you asked for. I do apologize, but that is what it is. You always take something from these live streams. Thank you very much. And if I played live, I just tape my cell phone to the guitar back, instant chart scale. You joke. You better. You better be joking. No. Art is not that. I don't want to go into another tirade, but you're not there to play perfect. You are there to play you, right? And so we'll get into it another time. But in art, it would be very much the distinction between a true painter and an illustrator, right? They don't take anything away from the illustrators, but you don't want to be the illustrator here. You want to be an artist. You want to be emoting things, and so you have to. I know you're not going to get your phone taped to your guitar, but you know what I mean. So these things, the more you master them, the more access you will have to them. And then you just have to kind of let go. All right, any more questions? I promise I'll have shorter answers. If you're new here in the chat room, I know there's quite a few of you, please do say hello and introduce yourself, maybe. Let me know where you're from. And I'll be here for a few minutes if you want to ask more questions. And in the meantime, I will ask, if you're new, if you could consider subscribing, because I'm trying to revive this channel after many years of kind of ignoring it. And, you know, it's taken a little while, and sometimes a bit frustrating because some of these videos might be useful, and I see the YouTube is not really moving them a lot. Sometimes they do, but they, you know, people seem to gravitate towards a lot of videos that are too easy, I think. Even my own videos. So don't be scared by this stuff, you know. Listen to it a few times, and I think you'll be surprised by just accepting that things are easy in music. Don't think of them as hard. Think of them as easy and basic. There's only 12 notes, nothing else, and you shouldn't be afraid of them. 12 notes, you know, and you'll get some great results just by imbibing yourself of this stuff. So listen to it many times, not just my videos, you know, but read books on music theory. You don't have to understand everything. Just keep reading it, because the 10th time you hear the word whatever, diminished fifth, then it's not as scary anymore. And you go like, it's just a note. It's just a note, and you may have a flat or two, but it's only a note. All right? So I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm giving advice to everyone who's not asking for it. But I'll wait for a couple of minutes if you have more questions. Jim, you had a light bulb moment. That's great. That's great to hear. Elliot from the UK. When do you plan on going live again? Hello, Elliot. You mean performing live? Because I'm live right now. Last week I wasn't, but this week we're live every Saturday. You think you're talking about playing concerts as soon as possible, probably. Although there might be some changes in my life coming up, and so I might have to delay that just a little bit. You know, I'll tell you all about it, you know, in a few weeks or months. But certainly as soon as possible. I just don't trust I don't trust the idea that we're going back to normal. Not soon. I don't see that happening. But you know, hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to start playing live again. But welcome, Elliot. I think your lessons are great in that after learning these, anything can be played based on the player's ability. It's great that you cover enough for that, Andre, in my opinion. Great, thanks. It's good to hear. So, and that's to, you know, if it was a private lesson, you know, you kind of have to focus on the student. But right now it's impossible because I don't know all of you guys, especially people who watch it afterwards. And so it's kind of a stream of consciousness thing. I do talk about the stuff I know. I don't hold anything back, and it might not be tailored to you specifically, right? It's impossible for me to do that. But that's what I mean. But if you just watch them, you know, the sum of all of them will give you a pretty good understanding of the way I think about music. And I try to do it not in a personal way, so I try to do it universally. So a lot of stuff we talk about here is true universal. It's not about my opinion, right? This is actually how you build a Phrygian scale. If it's my opinion, you'll know. I will tell you I like this chord or I like that interval. But so my suggestion, if you're new here, is maybe go back, watch a bunch of videos, and you should, you know, the sum of all that should help you out. But Elliot, I do want to play live a lot. As a matter of fact, when I released the last album, Mystic Electric, I couldn't play live. We waited too long, and then the virus hit in 2020. And so now I should go out and play those songs. Plus I have some new songs, maybe a new album coming out, maybe this year or maybe next year, it depends. And so I will have some catch up to do. I have to play a bunch of songs and present them live. Thanks for asking, Elliot. All right, so it looks like you've had enough of me, which is good. I think for a Saturday you've paid enough attention to a blabbering idiot on the internet. Do practice a lot. And next week, I don't know, maybe I'll think of something else, or maybe we'll do maybe the final mode, the Locrian mode. That's what we're missing. And there's a new chord coming on Tuesday for the 1 chord a week series. You should check it out. And I don't remember what it is, because I actually have recorded a few of them already. By the way, your lessons are understandable too. I couldn't imagine how these can be explained easier. Now it's all up to practice. Great. That's great. Thanks for that. And as I was saying, there's only Locrian left. We might do major and minor, and then we move on to other ones too. That is a lot to take in. Definitely going to go over this again a few times. Yes, do that. And I also, the other thing is, I don't want to make this just me logging on and talking on the mode, and that's it. That would be a bit dry, and I wouldn't enjoy it. So I'm afraid you will have to kind of sift through my little things and what I did this week. And but you know, I try to keep it short. But if I wanted to make a video on the modes, then I would just make a video. This is more of a live thing. So yeah, that's the plan. We'll keep it like this, and I will see you all next week. If you have any more questions, be quick, because I'm about to log off, because I think I've answered all your questions. And if you have any suggestions, any ideas, any more things you want to see, I didn't forget about the Rockmans. I know you want to see them, and I'll try to put something together, all right? But for now, the chord series is really taking a lot of my time. They seem like short videos, but oh yeah, look, please don't forget the Schultz pedals. I know, that is art. I keep that in mind. But as I was saying, the chord videos, they seem so simple, but they're really hard to, you know, it takes me about half a day to record them, edit them, putting all the charts, and you know, upload them, and the titles, and the image, and all that. And so I do need to do other stuff. All right, but that is art. I do keep that in mind. It's in the back of my mind all the time. When I come for a video, I say I should make one on the Rockmans. We'll do the Rockmans. We'll do them live. I plug them in sometimes, and we'll look at them. All right, Jim, that is art. Ricky, Jenny, Paolo, everyone, Elliot. It's good to see you all. Thanks for coming, and I will see you very soon. Details for everything is in the description. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so. There's all kinds of stuff down there, books, contributing to the channel. Check it out if you want. And I will see you next week. All right, Elliot, we'll see you next week. That's right. Have a great one. Let me see if I can log out. Bye-bye. Have a great week.